the national anthem will also be our prayer for this session and for today. Ladies and gentlemen, mabibi na mabwana, karibuni sana. We will start by a short presentation looking at the water borehole industry in Kenya. We go back to 1978, and a good number of you will remember that there were only 11 registered borehole contractors. You see them there on the slide. And of note, I want us to ask ourselves, who is still working of these 11 registered borehole contractors today? There has been an evolution in the industry. And in order for us to move forward, it's always important to pay respect to those who have come before us. We then go to 2002. And now you observe in the registered borehole contractor list for 2002, there were 32. And a number of these companies are still in good business today. So looking at the list here that was gazetted, we see JB Drilling, Tom Armstrong, who will be engaging with us in a few moments. We see a lot of organizations that are still busy today. Spar Drilling. We pay respect to East Africa Drillcon. And of course, interestingly, my own father, Water Borehole Services, listed there in 2002 as one of the registered drillers. And there are others, certainly. Tano Metal, I think it's important also to make note there. So what we observe is that over the years, there has been a change, and a dramatic change, in the number of registered drillers. We see that in 2016, the number went up to 95. In 2017, at the height of number of registered drillers, there were 159. In 2019, the last list that we have in terms of registered drillers, we have 131. So it begs the question, what has dramatically happened in the water borehole industry, especially at the inflection point of the year 2002, that has seen a dramatic increase in the number of drilling companies, in the number of boreholes drilled, and the associated and integral services like hydrogeology, pump services, supply of energy to those pumps, water tank systems, piping, and such products. The key thing is that in the early 2000s, there was an adoption of technology, and primarily the hydraulic drilling rigs with air compressors. The moment this technology was adopted in an affordable way, there has been a dramatic increase in drilling. We will see also the consequences of the increase in number of drilling contractors on the business. This next slide that you see on your screen then looks at the 2019 class of the registered drilling, equipping, and servicing contractors. The classes are four. For those of you who may not be familiar, there is Class A, unlimited depth. There is Class B, up to 300 meters in terms of what the contractor can do in depth. Class C is up to 150 meters, and Class D is up to 50 meters, shallow boreholes. What we see is there is a concentration, looking statistically at the classic bell curve, at the number of contractors up to 150 meter in terms of equipment capability. So what does this tell us? It tells us the concentration, where you go very deep, there's less contractors. But also there is a sweet spot, and the sweet spot is up to 150, and if I suggest up to 200, 250 meters depth. This sweet spot means rigs are affordable. It also is related to the geology. What are the typical meterages that drillers are drilling? We do know there are exceptions. For instance, in the Nairobi aquifer, that one has to go much further. But also it means we have to pay respect to the people working with smaller rigs and drilling shallow boreholes. And in this regard, I would also like to mention that we are joined by Bwana George Kouma of the Small Scale Drillers Association of Kenya. Let's proceed. Let's look at the money side. Because when we talk about business, when we talk about industry, we cannot negate the revenue and the money side. This picture shows a graph. And on the graph, we are looking at the black bars that show what has been the historical cost of water drilling in Kenya shillings per meter. Now keep in mind, this does not include the completion aspects of the well. So there is no pump, there is no riser pipe, there is no submersible cable, there is no solar panels, there are no tanks. This is drilling the hole and casing it. We see that there was, in Kenya shillings, a cost per meter of about 18,000 shillings in the 80s. Then in order to remove the aspect of inflation, we have dollarized that sum. So the US dollar figure at that time was $900 per meter. This was in the 80s. Then historically, we see in the 90s, we had 15,000 shillings per meter in the 90s. Keep in mind, very few players in the sector in the 90s, but they were able to get 15,000 shillings per meter. I know for most of us now, it seems like a dream. And that was $600 per meter at the dollar rate at that time. In the year 2000, where we begin to see the inflection in terms of adoption and affordability of technology, so that instead of sitting at a borehole site for 3 months, you could turn around in 3 days, in 2 days, in 24 hours, depending on the meterage and the challenges of drilling. We see the rate drops now to 10,000 shillings, $150. In 2010s, it goes down even further to 7,000, that's $90. And now coming into 2015s and moving forward to where we are, we see rates that are below 5,000 shillings a meter, below $50 a meter. Ladies and gentlemen, mabibi na mabwana, can we sustain this decrease in drill meter rates as an industry? And if we can, it's fantastic for the consumers. It's fantastic for people who need water. And keep in mind, at this point of COVID-19, water is the key ingredient in the fight against COVID-19. We need water now more than ever before. The question then is, how can policy support the industry to be sustainable, to make water affordable, but not to drive the industry out of business? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. We will have about an hour and a half of discussion, initially with the key guests from all the institutions that I mentioned earlier. But before we do that, I have the pleasure of inviting our supporter for today, Doshi Group, to welcome you. You will be welcomed by Bwana Nilesh Doshi, the CEO of Doshi Group. But prior to his words of welcome, we would like to play you a short video.
88. It's just a number. Add years to it. Now that's the game changer. 88 years is a long time to be doing something. It's even longer when you've been doing it right. Hard work pays. Integrity is fundamental, but attitude is everything. Roll up your sleeves. Get your hands dirty. Sweat. Whatever it takes to get the job done. No compromise. No excuses. No shortcuts. Dedication is everything. Dedication to a single dream. A dream to build better homes, a better country, a better future. This is our dream. This is Doshi. Our steel built this nation. Our cables connect your cities. We build your homes. And now, a single goal unites us to bring you the most precious resource. Water, the very essence of life. It needs to be protected. It needs to be preserved. And it needs to be pure. Using rapid technology, solid global partnerships, we're making sure that every drop of water gets to you uncompromised. Safe, clean water for all. This is what we believe in, and this is what we stand for. Our roots run deep, and so does our commitment. We are Doshi. We are Kenyan. 88 years. We've always been here, and we intend to stay. Built right from the start.
Good morning to all, and thank you for being here. On behalf of Doshi Group, I have a very, very pleasant duty of welcoming you all. We have a very, very distinguished panel, all protocols observed. I won't name everyone, but I really appreciate that all of you have taken your valuable time to be here and present to help address the issues facing the borehole industry. I would also like to thank the borehole drillers who have taken the time to come and understand and help discuss some of the issues that are facing them. And what we are confident is that this session will help, if not solve all your problems, certainly address to the people concerned, people who have the authority and the power to address some of the issues facing you. So we suggest you participate, ask the questions when the time comes. And so I really thank all of you for taking the time to be present. And I welcome you all on behalf of Doshi Group and Doshi Steel. And finally, I would like to thank Dr. Gathuru and his team at Kipya for organizing and helping us put this together. And we really appreciate and we are confident that you will find this session useful, and we enjoy the session, and God bless. Those are the two remarks I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bwana Nilesh. Much appreciated. I would like to welcome the Doshi team. And the Doshi team, we start by inviting our colleagues in the main office on Mombasa Road. And there is Evelyn. If you could please wave Evelyn. Thank you. There is Joseph. Joseph, please wave. Thank you, Joseph. There is Esther. Esther, thank you. There is also Christine. If you could please wave Christine. And there is Helen. We are also joined, and I will be spotlighting those colleagues in a short while, by Raju Patel, Mr. Raju Patel from Doshi, and Mr. Manoj also from Doshi. So thank you very much, Team Doshi. And we now proceed. And what we are looking at now is who are the participating associations. That is our focus, and we look at the Ministry of Water. They are with us today. We also have Honorable Festus Ngeno, the Minister for Water in Nakuru and head of the CEC's Focus Water. The Water Resources Authority, led by CEO Mohamed Shurie and geologist Agatha Juguna. We also have the Kenya Water Industry Association, led by Tom Armstrong, the chairman, the Geological Society of Kenya, led by Chairman Gisheru, and the Kenya Revenue Authority, led by the Commissioner of Domestic Taxes, Madam Elizabeth Mayo. So to center us, to really put us in the right frame of mind as we move forward, we show you now on your screen the results of a survey we did a couple of weeks ago in conjunction with the Kenya Water Industry Association on what are the main concerns of the drilling industry players in relation to government policy. So our discussion today is revolving around government policy. The main concerns are related to drilling, licensing, and permitting. Big concerns around that. There is a lot of concern around taxation of borehole services and the regulation of borehole contractors, which may be argued as licensing of boreholes. So what I would like to do now is have some opening questions, and I want to start with Tom Armstrong. And Tom, I want to be sure you're there and ready, and just to test your mic. So Tom, please if you can, I will spotlight your video, Tom, and I will ask you to unmute.
Good morning. I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you very well, Tom. And
All right.
Tom, to start us off, please tell us, what are the main pain points for drillers in respect of borehole contractor licensing, which, as we know, is done by the ministry, and borehole permitting for the end users, which, as we know, is done by WRA? What are the issues? Tom, Karibu, welcome.
Good morning, everybody. I think this is a fabulous opportunity to be able to get together and to discuss some of these issues which concern us all. Daktari, in answer to your question with the ministry, one of my particular concerns is that with the issue of licenses to drillers, it's rollover, it seems. There's no auditing of drillers. A new year comes round and we pay the fee to continue the license and the gazettement into the new year. There doesn't seem to be any check at all on drillers in that sense. I think it would the ministry can take a let's not say advantage, but there's something missing here. I'm not against the ministry at all maintaining the licensing of drillers. I think it's a responsibility of the ministry to do. If the ministry is not going to license drillers, then who would? I would suggest the water regulator, who is actually was responsible also for the activities of the Water Resource Authority. What was the other half of the question, Daktari?
Okay, so there's two parts to the question. There is the licensing, which is related to the ministry, and you've mentioned there's a challenge that the drillers are not being audited year on year. But the other half is the borehole permitting, which is really the end consumer who gets a permit to drill, although be it with assistance from hydrogeologists and drillers, but the permit is really in the hands of the owner of the borehole. And what are some of the concerns drillers have around the permitting issue?
Well, I mean, the real focus is time and to a certain extent complexity, and also tracking of where the application has now reached. To get all the authorizations to drill can be quite a complex exercise because you're having to approach several agencies. There are a number of agencies involved in the drilling sector, including NCA. Although I must admit, I don't really see the benefit or what the NCA is doing in context of supporting this part of construction industry. There's nobody at NCA who knows anything at all about drilling. But yeah, I mean, that's from the client's point of view, he just needs to get the permission to go. And normally the hydrogeologists engaged will take it through to the point of having all the necessary requirements in hand and ready to go. It can take 6 weeks, it can take 8 weeks, it can take considerably longer if there are any issues to be addressed. A common area is the title deed, and there can be a history here which can hold up the issue of the permit, the authorization for overly long.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I would now like to go to Chairman Gisheru. Chairman, please feel free to unmute your sound, and we would like to hear from you in regards to what goes on in the drilling sector. As we know, Chairman Geshero, drillers are guided by hydrogeologists on where to drill, the siting of boreholes. This is a fundamental requirement. Bwana Geshero, we know there are concerns from borehole clients. I have a very directed question to you. Who should cover the costs for failed boreholes? Is it the hydrogeologists who did the siting? Is it the drillers who drilled the well? Or is it just the borehole client who has to shoulder that loss? We know that we've had this issue, but what is the way forward? Please shed some light on this for us, Chairman.
Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, this is a very practical question that Tari, you are raising about who should cover the cost of a failed borehole. In answering that question, we go back to how did this borehole come about? There is a client who wants a borehole for a specific purpose. There is a law that governs how a siting and drilling shall be done. We have the water resources laws that explain who should do what. Now, the first question that needs to be addressed is, did the client follow the procedures that are laid out in law in siting of the borehole, that is getting a qualified person? If so, you take in that that is the first step. The second one is, did these practicing hydrogeologists carry out the work according to the laid down procedures? We have a code of practice that has been prepared by the ministry and the Water Resources Authority. Again, you check, this is a checklist. If this has been done, that is a tick. The third step is, was there a valid permit for drilling from both WRA and also NEMA license to especially deal with oil issues? Once you are satisfied with that, this is when now you go to the contractor who is hired. How was he hired? Is he licensed? Does he have the requisite papers for the drilling? If that is so, then you can now ask what went wrong when the borehole was not, when it failed. Because the failure of the borehole can come about from two ways. Either the site of the drilling does not have any potential for groundwater development. In some areas whereby there is no potential for groundwater, the results of the hydrogeological survey should have explained that these are the underlying conditions and presented the outcome of this siting properly. Now, if this borehole that is drilled did not get water, it was bone dry, then the failure cannot be by the contractor. It must be with the hydrogeology. And this is now the issue. What should the hydrologist do to cushion his client for a dry borehole? My answer, and this is something we have been discussing a lot with our professional colleagues, is that for a very long time, we hydrogeologists have been working without covering our clients for failure to get water, for instance, because normally we cannot be able to guarantee the water but we should be able to ensure the work, the boreholes that we are recommending, and that insurance is what should cover the losses that can be incurred by our clients. Now, the failure of the borehole to yield water could also come about from the drilling process, long design, sometimes long testing, where we are not matching the capacity of the borehole with the discharge of the pump. Now, again, it has to be looked at who made the decision. Was the decision valid? Was it informed by the information that is collected, corroborated from the drilling process? So I think we can say in a nutshell that the failed borehole needs to be identified with respect to what was the purpose and the steps that have been taken by who and how. So I think your question, Chair, we should look at what stage did things go wrong. Because even a productive borehole, even having been tested, properly designed, sometimes things go wrong while installing the pump. The pumps fall into the hole, and you don't get a good borehole. So in my answer, I would say we should look at each stage, who is responsible, but ultimately, and I think I would like to persuade all of us who are in this forum to look at the only way to sustain the borehole industry is by addressing how to cover the benefit to the investor, be it government, be it an individual client, be it an NGO, to ensure that whatever we are thinking is about ensuring that the client gets value for money. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Chairman. I know some of the participants have had a challenge with the voice coming through your microphone, but the point has been very, very clear. When did things start going wrong? And also, very importantly, as you've surmised there, how do we protect the investor? We need to find a very solid way of doing this. Thank you for that, Chairman. We will now be going to the Water Resources Authority, and I'll open up the mic to Madam Agatha. But before I ask her a question, and Madam Agatha, feel free to unmute, I will want to spotlight two gentlemen. One of them is Bwana Raju. Bwana Raju, please wave to the participants. Raju is an executive at Doshi. Thank you very much, Bwana Raju. And also, we would like to spotlight Bwana Manoj. Bwana Manoj, please wave to the participants. Thank you very much. He's also an executive at Doshi. Thank you for that. So, Madam Agatha, over to you, Madam. The question really is, from the authority perspective, and we are grateful also for CEO Mohamed Shourie in this session, we want to understand, as we move forward in this new digital era, we are now meeting virtually, and I'm pleased to say we have a good number of drillers that we are meeting today virtually. When will the borehole contractors be able to submit their records, specifically the borehole completion records, the records pertaining to the logging of boreholes, the test pumping of boreholes, directly into your system at WRA? Can we move forward? What is the future moving forward, and how can we bring the drillers into the digital era, specifically in relation to geological information? Welcome, Madam.
Okay, thank you very much for having us here, and thank you for organizing this very important session, because it helps us be able to have the dialogue which is so much needed in this industry. Going back to what you've told us, you have asked, is that when we should be able to have the drillers be able to submit records online. I think that's what I get from what you're asking. I must say that this is a dream we have. We want to go that way, but I would say this is a work in progress. I would rather want to say this, that whatever is required within the law is still sufficient until we get to that point in time. Because if we are able to get the right records, correct records, as is in the law, and you're able to have it in the system, I think the end game is that we have the right data. And I want to underline the usefulness of the data that we require from the process, that the drillers are the ones who are solely responsible for, of course, with the hydrogeologists, because like the way geologist Geshero has explained, there's a course of practice that was developed between the Ministry of Water and Sanitation and Irrigation and us here, the Water Resources Authority, with a view to guide on how we can ensure quality products coming from what the drillers are doing. And one that is maybe, I don't want to say ignored, but that we have not been doing right, because we are all together here, is the way we are putting in the data. Is it quality data? And because this quality data will help us, all of us, in the process. It will minimize what geologist Geshero has tried to say. We will not be having chances of, like guessing. If we had good data, we'd be almost be very sure what will happen in our borehole, because we have data in the surrounding boreholes, especially in this Nairobi, where we have a high density of boreholes. So it would be good that we follow what there is right now, as we anticipate to get into how we can have this online submission of borehole completion records. We really want that, but if the manual way is not really working right now, I think we need to improve on the way we are doing it now. And then I think it will be very easy when that time comes to upload it into an online system. So my remarks here is we have provisions right now to allow us to still submit the data. The question is, what sort of data are we submitting? Are we submitting it in time to be able to guide the decisions that are anticipated from that data collection process? Do our clientele, because the clientele is not just the owner of the borehole, but also the receivers on the other end would be geologists, fellow drillers, decision makers like ourselves. Would we get that data in time? Would we get it in the right quality? So I want to stop at that point in time.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. It's very clear that we need to get what we already have working, but we're happy to hear that you will look at how to then transition that into a full digital platform. Of course, the correct data. Thank you for saying this. You need the correct data. The second thing is the timeline for submission. So it's also important to submit it upon completion of the works. So thank you so much. We'll come back to you again, Madam Agatha and the WRA authorities. I would like us now to go to Honorable Festus Ngeno, And Engineer Ngeno, we would like to spotlight you. If you're there, kindly feel free to switch on your microphone and also your video, sir.
Yeah, I'm here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so happy to have you with us, and we hope everything is going well in Nakuru.
Yeah, we are well.
Excellent, excellent. So, sir, we have drillers with us today, and they're very pleased that you could join us because they all know that you are a man of the water sector. You have a history in the water sector, and therefore you understand in a lot of detail the challenges that are being faced by, amongst other providers, the water well drillers. We have a couple of questions. I'll start with the first one for you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
There's a number of county governments, and I ask this, you as head of the CEC's Caucus on Water in the Council of Governors, there are a number of county governments that are acquiring drilling rigs and conducting borehole drilling operations. These activities, please clarify for us, are they to be licensed and regulated by national government? Because we understand that water is a national resource and that it needs to be managed as such. So kindly clarify for us that space of drilling by county governments directly and conducting of these operations. What is the status and how do we move forward so that all the people can benefit? Karibu.
Thank you so much, Dr. Who is here from national government apart from WRA? You know,
Certainly, we have Director Juma.
Director Juma is here from the ministry.
Yes, from the ministry and his colleagues. We'll be coming to him.
That question is so political. That's why I need to be very careful.
I can understand, but please feel free.
So on the I'll answer in two parts. As a water sector professional, I'm against and I've advised my colleagues in the various county governments that governments don't do, how do I put it, in terms of business sense, that you cannot do business for yourself. That should be left for the private sector. So even as far as I've been able to convince as much as several county governments not to really focus on procuring drilling rigs, because after you have procured the drilling rig and the drillers are here with their expertise, so after drilling 100 boreholes within the county, so what happens with your drilling rig after you've drilled 100 boreholes? Because you are not, when you drill it is drill once. It's not like a road maintenance program where you will start coming and repairing the same road. So personally, as a water sector professional, and I want to side with the drillers, private sector drillers who I've worked with, I'm happy to see JB Drilling having been there. You know, that's like our colleagues from Nakuru and Spot Drilling. I've worked with them, quite a number of drillers in this forum. So from myself as a water sector professional, I am against the fact that county governments are procuring drillings on their own set. And I will give you statistics for the various counties that are procured. Those drilling rigs are not doing very well. I would put it this way, that it is a wasted investment. In fact, I would put it in our conversation with my governor. Nakuru is very expansive and water scarce county. So one of the key things that we delved into in the 2017, 2018, and 18-19 programming was that there was a push from various quarters for us to procure drilling because of our vastness of the county. But when I did a business case that this is not our business, this is a business that should be left for the private sector, you will see my budgeting, we've never procured. Otherwise, we were supposed to be the first county to procure. But in terms of business, let the private sector do their own thing. In terms of licensing, now that's what I was saying. You know, when a county government acquires a drilling rig, and that is where now the national government conversation, and the beauty we have is that we have an intergovernmental relations framework between the Ministry of Water and Sanitation and the Council of Governors. That framework was supposed to address the cooperation and collaboration as it is envisaged in the Constitution. We have two-tier systems of government. So if you have national government, if national water is drilling wherever they are drilling, county government of Nakuru procures drilling rigs, and water and sanitation services being a devolved function. As a water sector professional, the only thing I need to do is to liaise with the regional team, the WRA, and we've had that conversation and collaboration as a county, and proceed on to drill. So you will find that in terms of licensing, that might not be, I would put it, by the time you get the whole government coming to get license, it becomes very, very tricky. And that is why the best thing on the onset is that the private sector players should be able to come in, especially for counties where they are procured drillings. What is it that the private sector drillers did not do well in that county for that county government to procure a drilling rig? I'm throwing that question back to the private sector drillers. Like in Nakuru, I think we have around 5 or so very active drillers. And in any jobs that we do, whether Daktari, you win the tender for drilling and you don't have a drilling rig, you will find that it is those drillers are the ones who are going to drill anyway, because they have the capacity to do it. Subcontracting them, of course, in that sense. So licensing and non-licensing as part of is neither here nor there, because this is a county government is a government. We have national. The only thing that needs to work out at that point, and I think now a WRA needs to come strongly on the same, is how do that linkage come in? And I could say, and I would maybe I would want to hear what WRA would say here, especially for counties that I know are procuring drilling rigs. One is Machakos County. I think Kericho procured one. I think Bomet also procured a drilling rig. And Meru, something like that. Around 5 or so counties are procured drillings. What has WRA going to do, or national government for that matter, in terms of then making sure that they are part and parcel of the drilling programming in the sector? I would put it that way, Daktari.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Engineer Festus Geno. I know I asked you a very tricky question, but I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
Number one, you've been very clear that for you, your stand is this is a private sector venture.
Yeah.
And that county governments should keep out of it. I
agree.
think you will get a lot of support from the people on this platform for that.
So I have always advocated, and that's my how I view things from the ground. Yeah.
That is true, because we also know that the drilling sector, like any other construction sector, is heavy on maintenance, is heavy on issues related to operations, which the private sector can deal with. The second thing is you have also challenged Tom, and we'll be asking Tom to come back on what has gone wrong. Why accounting is investing, are the drillers themselves not performing? But also we have challenged national government, and specifically WRA will come back to really talk about the linkages. How do we work together as governments to make sure we are getting the data, to make sure we are licensing and regulating as a joint party? So it's not an issue of competition, it's an issue of partnership.
Exactly.
And thank you, sir. But now I would like to go to national government. And in this respect, I want to go to Bwana Juma. Bwana Juma, sir, please feel free to unmute your microphone.
I think I've unmuted. Are you getting me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Yes,
Juma.
we are getting you loud and clear. And
okay.
Excellent. Excellent. Welcome, sir. It's a pleasure this morning to have the Director of Natural Resources at Kenya's Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation joining us. He is also the one leading the department responsible for groundwater in the ministry. I'm sure you've been following this conversation. A lot has already been covered, and there may be some aspects that you want to give feedback on. But as you do that, I want to pause and give you just an opening question. As the prime policy body in Kenya, in regards to water boreholes, we need you to shed light on the issue of regulation of borehole contractor licensing. Today, the borehole contractor licensing, which is and sounds and feels like a regulatory function, is with the policy body. Is this the future? Or is the future that the regulation of borehole contractors will reside in a regulatory body, though still supervised by you at the ministry? And if so, if that is the future, what are the proposals? And when can we expect to see these things happening? Sir, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gaduru. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this. Actually, the invitation was to the Principal Secretary, and the Principal Secretary, because of his too many hats to wear, has directed me to stand in for him. So on behalf of the PS, I think, as a ministry, we want to really welcome this kind of forums where we share ideas, we share opinions, and it's out of the ideas we get from the various players that shape the policy. Because the policy should be bottom-up approach and not top-down approach. It is the players in the industry who wear the shoes and feel where the shoe hurts, and it's out of their input that the policy is shaped. So we really invite this. We welcome this forum. We really welcome the views that we've received so far, and as a ministry and on behalf of the government, because one of the government's mandate is. One of the government's objective is to create a good environment for the business sector to flourish. That is ease of doing business. And it's for this reason that we as a ministry, we don't want to make it difficult for anybody who wants to come to the sector to participate and practice, as long as he adheres to the rules and regulations and satisfies the criteria that has been put forth. So, our responsibility in that respect of creating an environment to do business is just to carry out due diligence on any player who wants to get in the sector, to ensure that he has the tools of trade, he has the capacity, and he has the technical the personnel to participate in this sector. One important aspect, as you'll observe from the other sectors, is a self-regulating sector. Now the question is, can we self-regulate our sector, our drilling sector? Can we self-regulate? It's a very difficult question, and this has been lingering on for a very, very long time, because there are so many varied interests in this sector. If we self-regulate, meaning we can, as ourselves, without as the players, the private sector themselves, regulating themselves, can they regulate themselves and the ministry or the government sits back and just provides that policy? It's a question I'm throwing back to ourselves in this forum, whether it's practical to self-regulate the sector and the ministry just sits and observes from far. Now, specifically on your question, regulation of borehole contractors, what is the process? For new players, they make an application to us, and now the rule is that for any player to get into the industry, he must possess a rig. Previously, we would allow even people who have an MOU with existing drillers, and they have an MOU that the rig is available to them, and then we would register. But now the requirement is that you must own a rig before you are admitted to practice in the sector. That's one of the policy, and then of course the personnel. Now we have to come and inspect the rig to ensure that actually what you presented in your documentation actually exists on the ground. Now the drilling sector itself, and I want to follow up from what actually Tom Armstrong mentioned in his opening remarks about auditing of drillers. Who is best placed to audit a driller? Especially when we are reviewing his application for renewal of license. Now, the ministry is not everywhere on the ground to know what a driller has done. What is our expectation in this respect? drillers enter into private contracts with clients. The ministry is not party to that contract. So when a driller underperforms, it is the responsibility of the client to inform the ministry of the underperformance of a contractor. And with this information, then the ministry is advised on appropriate action to take when the contractor, the drilling contractor, submits his application or his request for renewal. Otherwise, from where we sit in Nairobi, it's very difficult to know what a driller has done on the ground. Maybe a driller is in Marsabit or any place. Then it's expected of us to audit his performance, which has not been filed back with us. So we want to encourage, and indeed as a ministry, we've received so many complaints from clients who have complained that he engaged such and such a contractor who really underperformed to the extent that the borehole didn't last long or didn't produce any water. This is very important information for us, because once we get this information, then when the contractor applies for renewal of license, we have a basis to either deny or ask him to justify his performance. But I agree with Tom, there's need for auditing contractors when they submit their application for renewal. What am I saying in short? I'm saying this is a participatory sector. Everybody has a role to play. The government is not everywhere. Who's the government? We as a government, we perform our responsibility or our duties on behalf of the general good of the citizen, of the general good of the republic. We do on behalf of the people, on behalf of our clients. So we expect and we anticipate that we get information from the people to enable us make sound decisions. We cannot do this in the absence of information coming back from either the same industry, the sector industry, for example, the institution led by Armstrong, to give feedback to us that in the process of our self-regulating, we feel that this contractor is underperforming. He's bringing the industry's name into disrepute. We require this information because renewal of licenses we do it on the basis of information that we get. If we don't get this information, then it becomes very difficult for us to make a sound decision. So in short, what you're saying as a ministry is that it's on the basis of our participation, all of us, that we can make the sector. Because of late, concern has come to the ministry regarding the number of boreholes being drilled so haphazardly, to the extent that some of our contractors who I believe are participating here, they drill boreholes without even authorization from WARMA. It only comes to our attention when something goes wrong. And as I said, the ministry cannot be on every inch of this republic. This information has to come from ourselves, from our clients, from the sector players, especially a driller observing another drill and bringing the name of the sector into disrepute. Then we need this information so that we can take appropriate action. Regarding whether the policy, the regulatory function is best seated at the ministry or at WRA, indeed, this is a discussion that was going on. And at this moment in time, as WARMA is reviewing the regulation, there is a strong suggestion that this mandate of WRA. It's an ongoing discussion. There are varied opinions on this, whether it should go with WRA or with the ministry. Of course, one of the opinions coming forth is that WRA is an interested party, and we need an independent institution like the ministry, the mother ministry, to run this function. But other opinion is that WARMA has the regulatory mandate and they should be performing this duty, and that WARMA has staff on the ground, and it's WARMA who actually authorizes and supervises, or rather, contractor is supposed to inform WRA when they commence drilling works and when they complete, so it should sit with WARMA. These are ongoing debates. It's the regulations have not been finalized yet. I'm aware the CEO WRA is talking to the CS, and I think the sector will be informed, will be advised at the appropriate time. To pick on something that the CEC Engineer Ngeno mentioned about counties investing in drilling rigs and undertaking drilling works, and I fully concur with him. And I want to cite and drill so many boreholes. I'm told upwards of 100, and out of the 100, I think over 50% of them were dry. And this was a wasted investment, and I think this should lie squarely with the private sector to do this. It's an investment, as he said, it only the rig maybe for a year, then you don't need it anymore. So I completely, and is an issue of county governments looking for authorization from the government. Water resource management mandate sits with the national government. The exploitation or development of groundwater resources is in that respect is supposed to be overseen by the national government, and I think it's still appropriate that the national government should have these mandates of giving authority to the national governments, especially those with drilling rigs, the authorization and the permitting of their drilling operations. I want to stop at that point. I've talked for about 10 minutes, and if maybe I didn't cover areas that, because I believe it's a discussion, I can always come back and put forth further comments. Thank you very much, Dr. Kabu.
Thank you so much, Director Juma. That was an excellent overview. I am pleased that you are in full agreement with Honorable Engineer Ngeno in regards to leaving drillers to people who do drilling for a living. I think that's a complete alignment, and very interesting what you've told us about what has happened in some of the counties, which are cases that go to reinforce that the drilling business should be left to businesses. You have also around transitioning the regulatory function of borehole contractor licensing, and we respect that. So there's considerations of it going to WRA, there's considerations potentially of another independent regulator. So we look forward to how this develops, because we believe that it will be for the betterment of the industry. I think you've also posed challenges to Tom Armstrong as representative of industry, in this case, borehole contractors. So I want to go back to Tom. And Tom, I think there's a number of things that have come up from the various, you could please address the ones that you wish to address. I'm happy to give you pointers as well. As you prepare to do that, kindly unmute your mic, please, Tom. And also, I want to request all the participants to feel free to either put their questions in the chat, the group chat, or they can raise their hand virtually, because we have quite a number of participants. Please raise your virtual hand, then I'll be able to come to you and you can address your question to one of our panelists. Tom, proceed.
All right, thank you. Just as one thing, just to draw everybody's attention, this is about the future of the industry, and we need to reflect that the future is already with us, given that 40% of our population is less than 14 years old. And another thing to bear in mind is that 70% of our population is under 35 years old. The future is already there, and we all need good governance, and we all need to be part of good governance. There's often, very commonly, a cynicism of government and government agencies. I think that cynicism is very wrong, because we are also part of that governance. We ourselves need to pursue this and make sure that it's done right. And the Kenya Water Industry Association is concerned that things should be done right. To complement the code of practice, we've also developed a code of conduct for drilling. which is in line with the code of practice, but it's a lot more simple. But if we just look at the regulation of who does the licensing, there is a water regulator, and to me that's what he should be doing, and drilling is part of what I would put out, is that he should be under the regulator. Self-regulation, yes, that's kind of what the borehole the Kenya water industry is about. But we also serve, that's the drillers are only 40% of our membership. The rest of the water sector form the rest of the membership. Let us reflect on why the prices are what they are. Even if you look on the internet and ask the internet, what is the price of drilling in Kenya? You'll get the answer, 6,000 to 6,700. That is, to me, I question it. How do we get to that kind of price? I know that price is there, but I can say that it's not our price. It's not the price of my company, at least, and a lot of other companies. How does the price, how do we get a price as low as that? Well, I'm afraid to say it's to do with a lot of shortcuts. If you talk to the steel casing suppliers, very few drillers buy Class B casing, which is 4.5 millimeter wall thickness. Drillers are buying not up to spec casings, which means that they're going into ground. I've heard a casing as little as 2.8 millimeter wall thickness. It's just not strong enough. But at the same time, where did we get Class B? Is 4.5 too strong? I would argue not, because this has been found within the drilling industry around the world that this is what works best for a 6-inch borehole or even an 8-inch borehole with Class B casing. That's one area. The gravel packing that goes in, it needs to be 95% silica. I do not think you'll find a lot of gravel packing which comes to that specification. There's only one area in Kenya which produces gravel to that specification, and it's all sorts of not the right gravel is going into the ground to to put the filter in. There's a lot of other areas too. We have 8-inch drilling. My own company prefers to drill at 8 5/8, 219 millimeter, because a bigger annulus, if you remember, if you're drilling at 203 and you're putting in 6-inch casing, then that's now your annulus is just less than just less than an inch anyway. It's not, it doesn't go from 6 to 8 and there you've got an inch annulus all round. You're down to about 15, 16 millimeters only, 3/4 of an inch. It's not big enough. Anyway, let's move on from that. But that is, I think, one of the very key reasons as to why we have the price, general price, is low. It also explains why my company will not win bids, because we are based on quality and we're based on doing it right. That's key to our activity, and probably that's why we're still in the business, because there are many customers who want to do the job right, and that's what we do. Self-regulation within the industry, well, within the water industry, that's what we believe is a good thing to do. But we hear of rigs that are drilling without regulation, without permits. Yeah, it's a bad thing. But at least it's down to, there is a code of ethics. A code of ethics was produced a few years ago. It was well represented and passed around the drilling industry and rejected. I think only 2 companies of our membership, of the Kipya's membership, actually signed that code of ethics. It's interesting as to why it was not signed by many companies. There's certainly, we have incidences when drillers are not performing right, and we can only really, as the industry association, is just recognize that and write letters and try to support the clients and also the drillers if they need the support. One little technical point about the drilling is that, you know, you don't get more water because you've drilled fast. You know, a lot of drillers, they get on site and they rack it up to high pressure, 20, 24 bar, and they go as fast as they can and they come out. You can actually block the aquifer by drilling too fast because you haven't got sufficient annulus to evacuate the cuttings from the borehole. Where do they go? The cuttings actually go sideways and block the aquifers and reduce your yield. That's a quality aspect, but it's important to drill at the appropriate pressure for the ground. It's not a case of simply drill as fast as you can. It's not a good thing. Daktari, give me another lead.
Okay, Tom, I give you a breather if that's okay, because I think there's a lot of issues there coming back to the contractors. And Tom, I am actually humbled that you are ready to say that indeed some of the drillers are taking shortcuts. I think this is a very open forum, and that's why we are here, to understand what is the future. How do we move forward? So it's good with that, and really humbling to hear that. But I think there's a lot of issues related to technology, and I'm pleased to inform everybody that we will be doing a technology session in a short time. So within the context of today, we will try and nail the policy. Then we will come back to another session and invite you for a technology discussion. But thank you very much, Tom. We'll come back to you again.
One thing before I leave, about this county-owned or even publicly owned, government-owned drilling machines. There is a lot of literature worldwide about that it just doesn't work. And there are a lot of references international from experiences of other countries where it's been learned. That lesson has been learned. It's a bit of a problem for Kenya is that we don't look outside our national boundaries. And that research is not being approached, I don't think, by anybody that knows anything about how to operate a drilling rig. And the publicly owned drilling rigs do not work. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. I think we're in concurrence with county government, Engineer Ngeno, with national government, Director Juma, that indeed business is for businesses. Thank you for that, Tom. I would like to go back to Chairman Geshero. And Chairman Geshero, please feel free to unmute your mic. We have a number of questions that have come in from different parties, which I would like your assistance on how to work this through. One question here is, are drillers at fault for the gaps in geological data? And in this respect, what is the supervisory role of the hydrogeologist to make sure the right data is there, the right work is being done? And in that aspect, is there a conflict of interest arising between the supervisory hydrogeologist and the driller? And then, Chairman, how do we move forward? How do we move in a way that is professional, in a way that will give us the right data at the right time, and in a way that we avoid this conflict of interest? Karibu sana.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this. I think the issue of the data that is available for making decisions from the hydrogeologist is an issue that has always been a hindrance in deciding on how to deal with various aspects. The first one is during the survey, the hydrogeological investigations, where one analyzes the existing borehole data, which primarily is the borehole completion records that are filed with the WRA upon completion of all the boreholes within a certain area. Now, the discrepancies in the quality of this data are many times related to lack of proper logging or data collection during the process of drilling. So this gap can only be filled by ensuring that all data collected during the drilling and testing of a hole, of a borehole, are properly done and counter-checked before being accepted in the borehole completion record. There is now the other gaps that are from the actual investigations themselves, many times using geophysics. And this many times is about the experience or the expertise of the hydrogeologist who is carrying out the work. Now, the rule of experience always learns the game. You may find the person who has done it has not much experience in an area, and so some of the interpretations may be lacking. And it is during the drilling that you start finding there are gaps, especially the interpreted results vis-a-vis the recommendation. This one I'm saying, for instance, somebody may have recommended drilling of a borehole to say 100 meters. But when drilling, during the drilling, you find you need to vary the recommended depth to 200 meters because of inadequacy in the information in the report that is used to make a decision. And say you continue drilling to 200 meters, then you find again here you have to continue deeper as if the survey was not no longer using the information from the start. So these are some of the challenges, especially in terms of lacking sufficient data that will guide in the recommendations for the drilling. But at the same time, the supervision not having the requisite capacity to undertake data collection. And this has happened quite commonly where you don't have a qualified geologist on site. And some of the decisions that need to be made are made without proper technical input. So I think these challenges come along and many times they compromise the quality of the work done or also the outcome in terms of the productive wildlife. That's referring to the after construction, how long this borehole that is constructed will be useful to the owner. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chairman. And I think in that respect, you have answered a question from David Dago at Tallow Oil, who's part of the participation today. As we know, for the production of oil, we need water, but also there's the consumption of water at the various oil sites. I also have comments here from Patrick Murunga, who joins us today, and he is concerned that many boreholes have been condemned and abandoned during construction. Whilst in fact, if they were properly constructed, they could be productive. And this is partly due to human error. So you've mentioned their experience is very important. Partly due to poor supervision of the drillers. Okay, so this is Patrick's opinion. And he goes on to ask, can we as a matter of policy ensure that drillers are audited and attend regular trainings? So this is coming back to what Tom posed. And I think also Director Juma gave a reflection. Who should do the auditing? So here, this is reflecting on the issue related to regulation and the regulatory body. But we do have some questions to continue. And I would like to go back to Madam Agatha. Madam Agatha, are you there? If you could feel free to start your video and unmute kindly.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. There's a number of issues that have been covered there. One of them I want to go back on related to WRA is this issue of collaborative working environment. Could you guide us the drillers have said, yes, some of us are not submitting the right data and not at the right time, but we want to make amends. How can we create a collaborative working environment? I will pose a suggestion. I will put forward a suggestion. Can we give a period where we say all drillers can submit their data without any penalties, without any issues, where we issue 6 months between now and December 31st. Submit all your information. If it was a borehole dug without permission, WRA will not penalize you because the boreholes are being used. People are consuming the water. Can WRA issue a period, a moratorium, a number of months for all this information to be submitted without any penalties? Madam Agatha.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to say this, that the suggestion is really, really welcome because of the big gaps that we have without these borehole completion records. We realize that most times the borehole completion records, as the drillers, the borehole completion records are done for your client, for the owner of the borehole. And what has been happening within the regulatory aspect is that the borehole completion record usually is needed for the client to be able to get a permit to use water. And without the borehole completion record, we find it very hard sometimes to be able to generate the permit thereof, because if anything, the only data that you will be able to obtain from the client at that point in time is just maybe the GPS point, but the rest is lost because it's needed within our record keeping. Now going back to the suggestion, yes, indeed, I think we would be gladly be willing to this arrangement because it will really help and cover quite a few, or rather remediate a lot of challenges that we have. One, the fact that we don't get the borehole completion records also means we may not even be aware that these boreholes exist. Because if you think about the permitting process, once you get the authorization, within the permitting conditions, we usually spell out that as soon as you complete the drilling, the borehole completion record should be returned to the Water Resources Authority. And it's right to say that this has not been happening, or it takes quite a long time. So this means we're not getting the right data in terms of the number of boreholes. And like also I said earlier, being able to issue the permitting, the permit to use the water, because the authorization does not give the owner the owners to use the water. Yeah, and remember, as a regulator, our biggest concern is on the abstraction. It's not really the hole that you have a problem with. It's the fact that the water is being abstracted, but of course through the borehole, and we are not able to be, one, aware, number two, know how much, if we are not aware of the borehole, we are not aware of how much is being used. So for us, it would be a very welcome thing to be able to have the drillers submit the records to us. And I want to say it's a very welcome thing for us if it happens very soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Agatha. I think that will be the breaking news coming out of this session, that WRA are willing to, and gladly willing to consider that data be submitted and that there are no short-term repercussions. That there is a period, a moratorium period, where everybody can submit without penalty. Madam, if this can be effected, I am sure we will get to know where the boreholes are. We will get to know the logging of those boreholes, the geology, the structure. We will get to know the issues in the field, especially related to unlicensed boreholes. And if you could push that, all the drillers will be grateful, and also you at the authority and further on at the ministry, we will all benefit as a country. So in order to push out that breaking news on this willingness to consider a moratorium on submission of data, including unlicensed boreholes without any penalties, please feel free to send that out on hashtag Water4I, hashtag Water Policy, KE, on your social media handles. I think we are making progress here. Madam Agatha, this is the future. We need to work together. We need to say what's the past is the past, but let us clean up this year and let us move forward. So starting 2021, there will be no excuse for anyone drilling unlicensed boreholes. We wait for your further guidance through WRA on how this can be done. Thank you very much. All right, we would like to go back now to Engineer Festus Ngeno. Sir, we want to bring you back into a couple of questions here in the conversation.
Yes, give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great, great. I'll just identify you. Great, and I'll put you there. Sir, I think you've got a lot of support from national government. You've got support from private sector. There's a very clear push that this borehole drilling contractor investments should be left to the private sector. I must also add, you've got support here from Robert at PRD Rigs, who says, I agree with Engineer Ngeno that some counties have failed to manage the rigs as well. There may be something wrong on the private sector, so we need to also look, how is that going? We have a lot of comments that have come in, and I want to highlight one that is in relation to fees and levies that are charged at the county level. A number of the county governments are charging different fees and different levies, or have proposed to charge in relation to borehole drilling activities and borehole ownership. These include yearly charges for ownership, per borehole charges for contractors. We would like you to shed some light. What is the rationale behind this push for charging? Is it a revenue collection exercise, or is there a service that will be provided upon collection of these levies? Because in the end, it becomes more expensive for the consumer.
Yeah.
Please.
I would want to thanks, Dr. for the question. As far as I am concerned, I don't think we do that in Nakuru. So unless that was factored in under the finance bill of the various, every county has their own finance bill, and maybe then they are looking at it as a revenue generating activity, then that becomes now very difficult because it's passed through the county assembly and it's a finance bill. So it becomes very difficult. So I would want to know which specific counties are doing that.
Just to mention one that had proposed, although there was a lot of pushback and I think it was shut down, Nairobi County. There was a very stiff levy proposed, but I believe that has been paused. But the concern for all drillers is it will come back. How do we deal with it from policy?
The only thing we've been pushing, and I think also, and I think I don't know whether Juma is still here, but WRA are still here.
Yes, Bwana Juma is here.
Been the multiple
Engineer, if I could interrupt you, we seem to have a challenge with your connection.
Sector point of view on the provision of water services. If drilling of a borehole, am I audible now?
Yes, we had a slight bandwidth issue, but you're back now.
Sorry, but is it okay now?
Yes, it is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back now.
Thank you. I was saying one of the key challenges we've had in the chain of provision of water services has been the multiple levies that has been levied, especially from the national government point of view, and that's what we've been trying to address from the county government point of view. One example I would cite is if you are if a driller, of course we invite the driller to come in. That would be the last stage of prospecting. But if we are drilling a borehole in forest, for example, then you will have these KFS fees being charged on the same provision of water, and then we'll have abstraction charges under the WRA, and quite a number of other charges that's coming in. So that's what we've been trying to make sure that we don't have we mitigate and see what levies are supposed to be levied on in terms of provision of water. So in terms of for us in Nakuru, and I would want to also I will challenge my colleagues in the various counties, is to see that we don't it can never be a revenue generating activity. The reason why we do borehole drilling is a subsidy or a way of mitigating the challenges in terms of provision of water. That we are a water scarce country. We don't have enough surface water, which is of quality, and borehole is the way to go in terms of bridging the gaps that exist between the demand and the supply. Then so be it. So why should you be able to levy then and make it as a revenue generating? And in any case, when boreholes, and I had mentioned earlier, you can't, if you are in a county like Nakuru, you do 70 boreholes. Do you need to be high yielding boreholes? Would you be able to do them the following year? Absolutely not, because then we should be able to have harness enough water for either commercial, domestic, or whichever use you want to do it. So I will look at it from that point of view, that it is not for the counties that are put it in the finance bill. I don't know their reasoning behind. I would want to deeply understand. From where I sit as from Nakuru, we have never proposed anything. If anything, we've been working with the national government to see how to reduce the various levies that are charged, especially in the provision of water itself as a service.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for that, and we appreciate. And I know you'll be taking this message also to the caucus to really understand why charge yes. for these activities.
Yeah.
Thank
right.
you. We very much appreciate those comments.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I would like to mention a few comments from Bwana Ashok Reddy. I totally agree and support what Tom at the Kenya Water Industry Association has said about the quality of drilling works today. With low price quoting, there is a challenge with low price quoting. And we have a lot of drilling companies today that are not doing quality job. So let's keep in mind that we need to find a way to change this. And just before we go back to Bwana Juma, Director Juma, I would also like to read a couple of other comments that have come in and maybe some questions. Daval Gandhi, how are you, sir? From Watex says, even there is no authorization and even not paid VAT, will they come forward and register as WRA? So I take it what he's saying is, for the boreholes that have not been licensed or permitted, and they've not dealt with the KRA issues, will they be willing to come forward? So he puts a question mark there. I think if there is a period where there is no penalty, there is a good chance, or at least WRA will have come forward with a good heart. And then we in the industry need to respond. But still, Bonadaval, you talk about VAT burden. The VAT burden is too high. We have opted to handle the VAT issues as part of our financing session. So we'll be inviting you to come back in the coming months for a technology session and a financing session, where we will have both Treasury and KRA come back in to really focus on those issues. I'm cognizant of the time. We are at 11:45. We only have 15 minutes. So we want to keep it strictly on policy. Yes, there is policy related to taxation. We will deal with that under the financing aspect that goes into all those considerations. Coming to you, Bwana Juma, Director, we have one final question for you here. One final question. And it's a very, very challenging question, at least for me. For you, I think it will be straightforward. The agency model that has been universally accepted. For example, M-Pesa agents have grown the Safaricom business. There is no agent who owns a network, but all of them plug into the infrastructure that Safaricom has, that Airtel has, that Telcom has, and this business has grown dramatically. In the borehole contractor business, there are many agents today, more agents than drilling contractors. And I say that just without any hard facts, but just from knowing the industry. These agents source the jobs on behalf of drillers. These agents also get paid and pay on to the drillers. They also win tenders. Are these agents briefcase operators? Or should there be a reconsideration? You are very clear that drillers need to own equipment, and we agree. But should there be, in the future, looking forward, a reconsideration that these agents be categorized, be regulated within the licensing criteria, and recognize them officially as agents, so they can also take some level of responsibility? Is this the future of the industry, the borehole industry, in relation to the agents who are so many today? Karibu sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gadoro. Actually, that question, I like the question. And I would have wished to hear from the drilling industry led by Armstrong whether they would welcome an intermediary between them and the licensing authority. As I said earlier on, the ministry, I mean, we are policymakers, and for us, it's a bottom-up approach. What is the sector saying? Then we make it easier for the sector to operate. So the question is more relevant to the drilling industry to tell us whether they would welcome an intermediary between them, the client, and the licensing authority. Now, remember that a drilling contract is a private contract between a client, somebody who wants a borehole, and the contractor himself, the drilling contractor. The ministry has no role at all to play when an individual signs a contract with a drilling contractor to undertake drilling works. We don't have a role to play there. I understand your question to mean that can we create another category in our licensing of just the agency, the agents? So another category, not a driller, but somebody to source for jobs and then pass it over to a registered drilling contractor. Will this make the works cheaper or expensive? Because the agent will have his cut, a certain percentage. The contractor will still maintain his profit margin. This implies that the drilling cost will again escalate. Is this good for the industry? I don't know, because the client has to bear the burden of these agents. This will make the drilling works more expensive, in my view. But this is a new thought. We've never thought of this, Our perspective is that we want people who can deliver works, and that's why we've gone the idea of you have to own a rig before we register you so that you undertake the works. In which respect, then, if you underperform, and then your client is able to file details with us that you have underperformed, then we have a way of auditing you. Now, how will we audit the agent? How will we audit the agent whose job is just to seek job, then pass it to a contractor? What is his role? How do we punish him? Or how do we sanction him? I don't know. This is a discussion, as you say, is a challenging question. But to me, I have so many of these questions in my head that we register somebody who is an agent just to source for works, then give it to a contractor. Is this undercutting the drilling contractors? Is it making the drilling works more expensive? I think these are questions that we need to deal with. And I would wish to invite Armstrong to give his thoughts here. But more importantly, it's unfortunate we don't have, because we cannot invite those people who want both, because in my view, this will increase the cost of drilling, and we don't want this. Because in the same context, to me, this agency model can as well be played by the registered hydrologists. I mean, this is their field. They're supposed, actually, they really do a lot for the client. They not only prepare the reports, but they go to the extent of even evaluating quotations from potential contractors, 3 or 4. So the role is already played by the hydrologist in a way, but not in the exact context of an agent. But already the hydrologists who are acting on behalf of the clients already undertake this role, in the sense that they even source for the contractors for the clients and evaluate the quotations from the various drilling contractors. It's already played there, but we register these people as hydrologists, not as agents. But it's an open discussion, it's a welcome thing. As I said, the ministry will welcome ideas, and then we evaluate the ideas and see whether they're suitable. So I wouldn't want to make a ruling and say no or yes, but I think I've made my contribution to that particular debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. And also, you have really flavored the discussion by bringing in the aspect of, should it be professionals who are agents, for instance, hydrogeologists? I think this is a whole new dimension that we can think about, and thank you for that contribution. Now, we need to wrap up. So what I want to request kindly is that all of you who have sent questions, and there are many, and we have not got to them, please allow us to forward these questions to the relevant panelists and authority. We will then be having another session in a few weeks' time, focusing on technology, and we will invite all of you back. And during that session, we will try and give some pronouncements, if possible, if ready, from the various authorities. If not, we will update you on the status of the discussion. We are very glad now to come to the end of the session. But before we do so, we would like a parting word from each of the panelists. So I will start with Tom Armstrong of the Kenya Water Industry Association. Please give us, in under 1 minute, your parting words kindly. Thank you, Tom. Feel free to unmute your microphone.
Thank you. I would just like to make mention of another aspect not discussed, and maybe it'll come up during the technology session, is that if we're sending a courier package, if we're sending anything by G4S or Wells Fargo, that truck is got a transponder on it. Your package is monitored from beginning to when you receive it. I'm suggesting that we should consider that transponders can be fitted on all drill rigs as a condition of the license, and then they can be tracked and monitored wherever they may be. This may be a radical suggestion, but I think it's a good one to pursue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. And we are very grateful to you and to the membership of the Kenya Water Industry Association for really supporting us in putting this forum together. And we wish you warm regards. We now go to Chairman Gesheru for your parting remarks. Kindly, Chairman, and feel free to unmute your mic.
Yeah, thank you. My parting remark is that if we demingle the various players in the water sector, those at policy and regulatory authority and contractors and consultants, we should have a very good environment in the drilling industry. The problems we are having is where all these actors have come together at various stages of borehole drilling, and they leap off their client. This is a very big problem, and it is the one that has even introduced these blockers. We are trying to look for where to accommodate them. I think it should be very clear that once a borehole is sited by a qualified hydrogeologist, the next step is getting a license for the drilling, and from there it is the construction. I think when we introduce other players, we are only overloading the already overloaded investor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for that final remark. And also thank you to all the members of the Geological Society of Kenya for joining us today. Some hydrogeologists have been on this forum. We appreciate you, and warm regards to all your members, sir. I now go to Madam Agatha, Water Resources Authority. Kindly unmute your mic and please give us your parting remarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. I think it has been a very good session. I just want to underline the importance of professionalism in this whole drilling profession, or because we are delivering a product, that we think about how to deliver everything professionally, from the way we drill the borehole, from how we record what is coming through the borehole. And therefore, I want to appeal that that because it's a very, very, very essential role that the drillers are playing, and the fact that, as has been said before, groundwater is the one that is helping plug the gap where we do not have water, that we address the issue of professionalism within the drillers, and that it's also important that the hydrogeologists are involved within the drilling jobs, so that at the end of the day we are able to have good records and we have a good product for the client at the end of the day. That would be my parting remark. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much to you, madam. We appreciate you, and also to the Water Resources Authority and all the colleagues. We are very grateful for your participation, and we will be inviting you also to the next sessions. I truly believe we are making the right steps forward, and we will secure the future of the borehole industry in Kenya. Now I proceed to Honorable Engineer Festus Ngeno. Sir, feel free to unmute your microphone and please give us your parting remarks, kindly.
Thank you, Dr. My parting remarks, as I mentioned, I will go in line with my opening remarks, that we leave the business of drilling to the private sector as governments. And for government, we do our part in terms of facilitating, providing a good environment for the private sector to thrive. And I'm happy with the policy direction from the ministry my friend Crispin has provided. And of course, with our good relationship, the relationship that we have developed for over the past 2-3 years with the Water Resources Authority, with the regional teams on the ground. For county governments, I think we are on board with the national government. And as I said again, for the drillers, I think for us as governments is to just provide an enabling environment, value for money for the investor. And of course, at the end of the day, as put by Akada, we also look forward to you providing quality service because that's an investment. That is taxpayers' money that we are expending as responsible government. So drill, provide the quality service, provide water to the people. We pay you your dues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. And warm regards to the governor and all the county colleagues. We appreciate your time. And Asante Sana for being with us. That's great. Now we go for the final one to Director Juma. I will ask you to unmute your microphone, Director Juma, and please give us your parting remarks. Asante Sana.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gaduru. Thank you very much. And I want to thank Doshi for putting this together. And I would really encourage them to continue with this kind of support, in that the sector needs to talk among itself, because this is our sector. We don't manage it properly, then it collapses. It collapses, our business collapse. So I think this interactive session, I think it's very important. As I mentioned earlier, the government and the ministry is there to create the environment, the proper environment for the businesses to thrive, for our professionals to work, and for everybody for a sustainable sector. So we welcome this kind of sessions. We take aboard all the comments, because we believe whatever you tell us is positive, is to make the industry more sustainable and for the business to thrive. We take the comments aboard positively, and when it comes to the time of policy development, we'll be inviting the various players so that they give their input, so that we have a policy that is vibrant, that supports the sector. Now, specifically to our contractors and our professionals, we want to implore upon our contractors first to be professional in their approach, do boreholes that are sustainable, that can last plus 20 years or more. Because I remember when I joined this sector almost 30 years ago, there were boreholes which I joined were there and they're still operating to date. But lately, a borehole is drilled 5 years down the line, a client approaches the ministry, indicates that his borehole is hardly 5 years and is already collapsing. So I want to implore on our contractors, please, we don't want to collapse the sector. We don't want to collapse our water resources. Let's do a professional job, and let's do work that satisfies our clients. And let's generate data that can help us to create good policies, because you give us wrong data, then we don't understand our resources better, and therefore our planning also becomes a facade. This also applies to our professionals, the consulting firms. We request you, because sometimes we find that on analysis of what Warma has done, we find that boreholes are sited hardly 5 meters apart. And we are aware that already some of our aquifers are already collapsing. In Isili, we have a challenge. In parts of Nairobi, we have a challenge. The aquifers are collapsing because we don't get proper information from our contractors and our professionals. It is our sector, as I said. Let's protect the sector. Let's work professionally, and let's interact. And thank you once again, Doshi. Thank you very much, Armstrong, and Dr. Gaduru. Thank you very much for putting this together. Thank you very much. And regards again, once again, from the PS, would have wished to talk to the players, but as I mentioned, because of his schedule, he couldn't participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Juma. We are honored that the PS has sent his regards. Please wish him regards from the entire industry. We are grateful that he sent you as the representative. And indeed, with your knowledge and experience, you really have stepped up to it. We appreciate everything you've said and your participation. Asante Sana. Now we've come to the end, but there is one more activity we need to do. One final activity. Now, before we do that activity, please look in your chat. And in your chat, there's a link. There's a link to a feedback form. We would like to hear from you. How did you find this session? Was it useful? What other areas would you like us to speak about next time? We would like to take all these into consideration. But also importantly, there is a claim for a discount for Doshi steel products that you need to have access to. So please feel free to go on that form, fill it in, and you will get a nice discount. So this is courtesy of Doshi Steel, as we all know, Chuma ya Nguvu. So I would like to request you finally, please switch on your microphones. All of you who have microphones, all of you who have video cameras, especially video cameras, I should say, please switch them on so that we can give a warm round of applause to our panelists. You could do it physically, you could do it virtually. Thank you so much for joining, all of you. We appreciate you. Asante sana. It's been a wonderful session. Stay safe and God bless you. Thank you.
"88. It's just a number. Add years to it. Now that's the game changer. 88 years is a long time to be doing something. It's even longer when you've been doing it right. Hard work pays. Integrity is fundamental, but attitude is everything. Roll up your sleeves. Get your hands dirty. Sweat. Whatever it takes to get the job done. No compromise. No excuses. No shortcuts. Dedication is everything. Dedication to a single dream. A dream to build better homes, a better country, a better future. This is our dream. This is Doshi. Our steel built this nation. Our cables connect your cities. We build your homes. And now, a single goal unites us to bring you the most precious resource. Water, the very essence of life. It needs to be protected. It needs to be preserved. And it needs to be pure. Using rapid technology, solid global partnerships, we're making sure that every drop of water gets to you uncompromised. Safe, clean water for all. This is what we believe in, and this is what we stand for. Our roots run deep, and so does our commitment. We are Doshi. We are Kenyan. 88 years. We've always been here, and we intend to stay. Built right from the start.